Today marks the 150th anniversary, that is, of one of the most somber moments in American history. April 14th, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater in Washington. Here to help us commemorate this day, presidential historian Doug Wead. Doug, welcome to the show. Very good to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, I think it's so interesting, this story today, 150 days later. It's difficult to put it in context. Talk to us about how to think about this and what it meant.
This was a turning point for us in America, and Lincoln immediately became a saint. The deification of Lincoln began almost immediately, and I think what we miss is that he wasn't a saint before this moment. He was ridiculed, almost didn't win his re-election, was considered very quaint, not tasteful. So the real genius began to emerge after this assassination.
And yet he led us through, my goodness, the Civil War, one of the most contentious and difficult periods of our history. What if he had lived? What would have been different?
Yeah, I think the one good way to understand Lincoln is Daniel Chester French, who was the sculptor who designed the Lincoln we see in the Lincoln Memorial. One of Lincoln's hands is in a fist, the other one is reaching out with an open palm. And French, who just literally lived with Lincoln in his mind as he created that sculpture, he was trying to show that Lincoln was tough. He was a killer in that more men died on his watch as president than any other president in American history, and yet he was compassionate, ready to heal and forgive the South and bring the nation to unity. And this is a good illustration of the very complicated person he was. He practically memorized the 5 books that his stepmother brought to him when she married his father. She brought him 5 books: the Bible, Aesop's Fable, Parson Weems' biography of George Washington, Toynbee's History of the World. He didn't have a vast collection of books like many people presume. He only had 5, but he almost memorized them. And much of his life you can see from those books.
And my understanding is he studied those in candlelight. I mean, talk about a difficult growing up. But tell us, what do you think he was like as a person? Would we recognize that man today from the history books?
He had a great sense of humor. He would, as a young man, he would go to church. And when church was over, he would come out in a field, stand up on a stump, and he would re-preach the sermon loaded with sarcasm and double entendre, and it would attract a big crowd. People said it was much better than the preacher's sermon. It was satire. His father was furious with him about it, but he had a great sense of humor. He had a temper that we don't fully acknowledge today, but when they hurt his sister, Sally, he was furious, and he played a pretty dirty trick on the people who had hurt her.
Wow. You know, it's a side of Lincoln we've never heard before. Is there anything we should take away today? Anything about his life we should remember and commemorate?
What strikes me is his mother, his stepmother. We often talk of the wicked stepmother. This was the angel stepmother, and it's a great story for stepmothers all over the world. Lincoln told his law partner, if we can believe his law partner, "All I am or I ever hope to be, I owe to my angel mother," he called her, his stepmother. And after he was elected president, he went to see her because he wanted to meet someone who loved him as a person and not what he had become and was seeking office. And she hugged him at the door. She was weeping. A Chicago Tribune reporter was there to hear her say, "They're going to kill you, son. They're going to kill you in Washington." And he just hugged his stepmother and said, now, it's going to be okay. But she had a premonition. She knew in her heart, this is the last time I'm going to see my boy.
Wow. Doug Wead, great conversation. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, Gerri.